not either one or
Nothing.
145.
That's nothing. 145 mincha.
When he said roads,
I much prefer 130 then.
Yeah, 115.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you want the clock?
I need to get one. So I normally get a look around.
Shiur, 145 minutes.
Do you not want
How far in the middle?
most people want to.
So you bench, try you bench.
Hey, one sec,
And then you
mate.
take that mincha and then you wash again. You've done such a.
Yeah, so I wash
I spoke to his father last week.
And
Yeah, my father said because he didn't want an obligation, but he might still come in.
I reckon you'll get.
No, mate.
I reckon I know 30 people. But all these people
What, first or second?
don't want to come in.
The problem is you won't get the
haven't
locals.
mentioned Travis State,
You won't get the locals.
Why? You're talking about parents.
I think for this you need to.
Yeah, you need
Dr.
Dr.
Joseph's not going to come.
You can probably would.
Dr. Joseph won't come. No.
No, these couple won't come.
Corona.
Two away from it.
That's it.
Oh,
What's good on this?
we used to sing about Corona. Never went to Corona. It was great.
We're up to pay testament. We're up to a new pair. Baruch
We should
Hashem.
go back to
Special
Corona.
course.
Friday.
Baruch Adonai.
Amen.
Okay, this pair is actually a whole new topic. No, it's like this. Till now we talk about Chatzeros. Chatzeros means like this. Yeah, well, nine. So there's a few people living around one courtyard. So Chazal forbade you to carry from your house to the Chatzah because you're carrying from one private place to a number of places, to an area which is owned by a number of people. But Chatzah was the primary usage. They even used to do the cooking in the Chatzeros. Now we're discussing other areas, mainly three: rooftops, kalfifos, and chatzeros. And we're discussing carrying from one to the other, not from houses to things. We have three shittas in our Mishnah. And we actually passed in the kula here, which is a very big kula, which you have to be aware of. Says the Mishnah like this: Kol gagos eir v'shus achas. All the rooftops are one rishus, meaning that if I live on the rooftop and you live on the rooftop, I'm allowed to carry from the top of my house to the top of your house. Even though I'm actually carrying from one rishus to another, I'm allowed to carry from the rooftop of mine to yours to the next rooftop. I'm allowed to carry around all the rooftops in the whole town. As long as I'm not going up to a roof which is 10 tefachim higher or lower. There's actually pictures. It's also hard to picture. But let's say your house is taller than mine. It's 10 tefachim higher. So if I go from your house, let's say it's a terraced house, and somehow. So if there's a 10 tefachim gap, either higher or lower, then I'm not allowed to. That's what I mean. The Chachamim, they are machmir the most, and they say you're not allowed to carry from one rooftop to another. So if you're going on a terraced house, you're going to actually have to stop carrying when you get to the border of your house.
Yeah, why would you? It's like when you have what we were yesterday with the two balconies.
No, you're on top of it. You're on top of it. Let's say you're walking along the rooftop of Basic Socks. See here.
Yeah, but
you're walking along this roof.
Neighbor, you have a problem.
Why? You all want it's one flat roof.
It's not different.
Yes,
Oh,
if you don't use
Like
it.
since you don't use it so often,
Use.
since it's not so well used, it's a chazal or momeko. Now, Chachamim say every single rooftop is different. So if you're walking up Basic Soil carrying an apple, you'd have to stop by the entrance where it goes on to Hebrew Central because that's a different area. It belongs to different something. But Shiur Noima, he's the most maker. This is what we pass him. Echad gagos, echad chatzeros, echad kafifos, shus achas hein, lekenim shushav to leseichan, or lekenim shushav to lechabais. Going to Shiur, you're allowed to carry even the chatzeros. You're allowed to carry from every chatzah to every chatzah, from every rooftop to every rooftop, from every kafif to every kafif, and from rooftop to rooftop, from rooftop to chatzah, from chatzah to kafif. The only thing you're not allowed to do is something which was in your house when Shabbos came in, carrying it into somebody else's chatzah. So, I'm allowed to carry from my house into the chatzah. But if when Shabbos came in, it was in my house, I'm then not allowed to carry from my chatzah to your chatzah, only to my border. So let's say, for example, when Shabbos came in, I had something on my roof. Let's say, for example, I took out my deck chair before Shabbos came in. Then I'm allowed to carry it around the whole town, everywhere. I'm allowed to carry it by roofs or by chatzeros or by kafifos. I'm not allowed to carry it to people's houses. Because up until now, we've always been talking about things that when Shabbos came in, were in my house. Then it's forbidden. But something which was left outside is forbidden.
So two chatzeros that would.
Not got an eruv, you're allowed to carry from one chatzah to the next. Two chatzeros which have not got an eruv, let's example, Richmond Avenue and Albert Avenue. Richmond, you're allowed to carry for things which are left outside if they are considered chatzeros. Okay, So now we're trying. So we've got three shittas. Very, very briefly. Shittas on the camera is the Chassidus Chacham is the most machmis. Every rooftop is separate. Shittas of Shimon is the most meikol, and Shittas of Meir is somewhere in between where he says that rooftops are all one, but as long as there's no 10 tefachim gap. Now the Gemara doesn't understand what's the logic of the 10 tefachim swap. If we consider all rooftops to be considered one rishus, why would we care if one roof is higher, one roof is lower? Says the Gemara, Yosef Abai Bavin Rav Chanina Bavin Yosef Abai Gabayu. Yosef Kami Bishlim Rabbanon Savik Shem Shtu Chalukul Matrach Dion Chalukul Malo. And let's get this very clear because this comes up a lot of times. Just like below the roof, let's example, I own this house and you own the house next to the thing. Just like in here, you can't carry from one to the next, but it's from one house to the next. So on the rooftop, even though you can't see a wall coming up the rooftop, there is no wall splitting the two rooms. But since this area belongs to me and this area belongs to you, you can't carry on the roof. No, no, because it's a separate rishus. No, it's chachamim. Again, if I'm carrying, according to Amir,
Imagine the line carries on.
that's right. You imagine the line carries on. Here, maybe to quickly do it, I'm not time.
No?
So there's got two different things. You see over here, if you look at the picture over here very quickly, here you've got, when you're walking along the roof, would you be able to know where one house stops, one house begins? No, you wouldn't. Here, would you be able to tell?
Yeah.
Yes. So the Gemara is talking about this case. And the Gemara says that in this case, when the Chum hold, it's as if the walls of the house carry on, and you're not allowed to carry from one rooftop to the other. No. That's, according to Chachamim, yes. According to Chachamim, we don't pass like the Chachamim. So Bishlim, we understand the Sola Chachamim, it doesn't matter, we leave it. They're just like it's split below, it's split on top. Why allowed to carry from one roof to the other? Because if he holds that all the rooftops belong to one rishus, that everything above 10 tefachim is rishus achas, that means according to Chachamim, can understand the logic. They say that the split below continues above. But according to him, he obviously doesn't hold of that because he allows you to carry from one roof to the other. So why do we care if one rooftop is higher than another 10 tefachim? Who cares? Says the Gemara, Omalu Abayas. Abayas replies to him, have you not heard? Whenever you find two areas within one rishus, for example, going on with rishus hayochid gvoya asov v'chababo, also the kasef olav, you don't have to put things down. If you're sitting in your back garden, and in your back garden you have a post which is 10 by 4. What's the status of that 10 by 4? Your garden, any problem of carrying one to the other? Shouldn't be. Mechatesa, there should be. It says, you're not allowed to carry from one to the other. Luckily, we do pass that because the shouldn't want to discuss Kunta. It's a huge chumrah. If you got in your garden, for example, a big, ornamental post, you would not be allowed to carry a post box. I don't know why you have a post box in your garden. An electricity box in your back garden. You will be allowed to carry from your garden to it. Why not? What's the svara there? Because he wanted people to remember this principle, which we've discussed many times, that when you're walking in the Rishus HaRabbi and you see a big post, that post is Rishus HaYachid. If you're walking in the Peak District, the middle of nowhere, it's a complete Rishus HaRabbi. And communist. And then there's a post, there's a big rock, 10 by 4. What's the status of the rock? It's Rishus HaYachid. Because he wants people to remember that, he forbade it even in the Rishus HaYachid. Are you following? So therefore, it comes out, therefore, if you've got a rooftop 10 tefachim higher than the other, you're not allowed to carry. According to me, academic Rabbi was scared about a tail is like a mound in Rishus HaRabbi. So we know holds even if you've got a big bowl in your back garden, unless you've got a massive bowl or a mortar, which is 10 by 4. So he said, no, not so much. Only said which a person keeps in its place, not a big bowl. That one never forbade. If you've got a massive box of clicks and it's 10 by 4, a mere hell, that's fine. He's talking about something which should permanently leave in the Rishus HaYachid. What? Something is fixed in the ground. That's what Meir forbids, and we take it to a pass like a Meir. Now they will ask a small question. As the Mishnah's Mash will try to attack the Meir is matter such a thing. Faith the Gemara. It's a war between two gardens. The Kavua, the garden's Kavua. The wall is Kavua. You're not allowed to carry from a roof to, so you're allowed to carry from one roof to the next, from one chotzer to the next, from one kaf to the next, but not from a gag to a chotzer. My love, does it not mean that you're allowed to carry over a wall? So even if you've got a wall which is 10 by 4, Rameh holds its mutter because he said from every chotzer to every chotzer's mutter, from every kaf to every kaf's mutter. So you should be allowed to carry as well over the wall as well. And you just said according to Rameh that when you've got 10 by 4, you can't. What? Oh. So what they should be discussed that once if it's a shus la'atzmo, it's a chazal would forbid it, and it would be the same thing as a teler shus lavi, which would be also. So what says about the bayud of sheshus is good for whole mice. You should be aware. What says, we're talking about through an entrance way, but not over walls. So therefore, a mayor which says you're allowed to carry from every chotzer to every chotzer, or from every gag to every gag, only permits it through the walls, but not over the walls. So that's a kasha that maybe we'll talk about thin walls and then you don't have a shus hayachid, but Ma'aseh the Gemara says you've got no raya over here. So let's summarize. According to the Chachamim, they say, just like it's split below, even though on the rooftop you can't see anything, it's split above. According to Amir and Shimon, we don't say it's split, and in fact, you're allowed to carry amongst all the rooftops and amongst all the chatzeres. According to Amir, not if there's a tent vachim, because he holds of a special gzeir. Even in the Rishus HaYochid, he holds of the gzeir. That means if you're sitting in your garden, you're not allowed to put on top of a post. We the Ma'aseh pass like Shimon, that you're allowed to carry from every rooftop to every chatzer, as long as it wasn't in the garden, as long as it was ready in the garden when Shabbos came in. Now we're going in the Chachamim. Each one is a shus b'fnei atzmo. So again, imagine this room. This is a quite nice room. Imagine this is my house and this is your house. And imagine the roof is completely flat and there's absolutely no way of knowing where the house stops. What would the halach be according to the Chachamim? You're not allowed to carry from this to this. But would you be allowed to carry on this roof? Now, in the normal shus hayachid, you're allowed to carry as far as you want. There's no borders. Are you allowed to carry on this roof as much as you want?
So you wouldn't know.
But if you say the Sol Chum is that mechitzas chalukas, it's as if it goes up, so maybe it's as if it goes up, and therefore you've got borders. What do you want to say? Yeah. Says the Gemara. You're not allowed to carry only within 4 amas. You're allowed to carry everywhere. Now we don't actually pass an ayah that not like Rav, not like Shmuel, because we pass because it's all mutter anyways. Therefore, it's not a shak. According to Chum, it's a machlekas. Says what mechitzas adikos kamei pligi. If you can see the mechitzas, everybody agrees that you're allowed to carry anywhere. When can you see the mechitzas?
No.
No.
When
When the house is split. If there's a tiny gap, that picture, did you see that picture? When the houses are tiny bit split, so then you can see when you're walking along the roof, the difference between one house and the next. Can you see? You can't see?
No, I'm saying.
Here, you can't see any difference. So when there's a split, that means even if it's only 1 foot distance from one roof to the next stop, and you can jump across anything. So now you can see that the wall is going up because it's called kudasik, because the wall actually goes up and therefore goes up. So that's okay. Keep literally a proper terraced house. We're walking on the rooftop. You cannot tell whatsoever whether you're walking on top of this or you're walking on top of that.
Sometimes they have different tiles. The roof tiles change.
No, it's that doesn't help.
I don't make a difference.
No, it has to have a
There's a
mechitza.
change in elevation.
That the Gemara will discuss. That's from me, but another something more. So Gemara is like this. Keep it mechitza shenikos. Rabbi my mentality boile ba'abamas lo oma good as mechitza. Don't say good as. Shmona ma mutat good oma good as mechitza also. And if even though you can't see this wall, when you're walking on the roof, there's absolutely no way you can tell where this wall is. We picture that you can, and therefore you're allowed to carry anywhere you want within this roof, and anywhere you want within that roof, but not from one roof to the next. Okay, many times the Lord does that. The guys, because I've committed other times. It's its own rishus. The lotion of the Mishnah is it's his own area. Because it says it's its own rishus. Own rishus means it's its own rishus hayachid. Own rishus hayachid, you're allowed to carry anywhere you want to rishus hayachid. It doesn't mean that you're allowed to carry as much as you want in the rishus. And when we say rishus le'atzmo, there are 2 things. It's a kula and a chumah. A kula that you're allowed to carry anywhere you want within that rishus. A chumah not allowed to carry from one rishus to the next. In this particular context, where the Chachamim said it's rishus le'atzmo, they only meant it legabe a chumah. That even if you're standing 1 meter away, one inch away from the end of the rooftop, you can't move it 2 inches. That's all they were trying to say. They weren't trying to say that you're allowed to carry it anywhere. Rishus le'atzmo means it's split from the other. Says the Gemara, right? You're only allowed to carry them 4 amos, like Rav says. They found a brisa that says, you're allowed to carry anywhere within the roof. That's a poshut pshat. You're only allowed to carry on the roof. They're allowed to carry anywhere in the rooftop. Says, well, no. Listen, is this brisa any stronger than our Mishnah? That means you've got no reason to say that this brisa is any more clear than the Mishnah. And when it says you've got the rooftop, all it means you've got the roof. That's right. That means the lush of the brisa is you've got the roof. The posh pshat of the brisa would be you've got the whole roof. No, it means you've only got your roof. You can't move from your roof to another roof. This is the 5th time we had it in Masechah Shabbos. Rav Yosef said, I don't remember this. Why didn't you remember it? Unfortunately, you're going to lost the memory. 5th time Abai says, you told it to us. If you got a rooftop which is different shapes, one of them is very wide, it's very big, like a T, capital T. Oh, they've got it now, it's got very good. Another one has got a small one. Now, if you think about it, the smaller one is actually, to carry within the smaller one, you've got absolutely no mechitzas. If you think about it, the big one is actually got quite a lot of mechitzas, because we say, except for the area where they're actually adjacent, there's a svor to say, good asik mechitza. So except for the area which they're actually touching, we would imagine that the mechitzas go up. There's a concept of good asik mechitza. Do you remember what good asik mechitza is? What? No, it wouldn't. Because on the area where it's touching the big one, it's got absolutely no walls. It would have 3 walls, not 4 walls. Is it clear what Shai is arguing? When you've got the big one, it's actually got 4 walls on all sides. It's got the walls on all sides, because even when it touches the small one, it's got walls going up. But the small one doesn't. So therefore, because on the side that it's touching the big one, there's no walls at all. Because there's absolutely nothing to differentiate. Yes, Bladit says exactly the same. We've got one of small chutz opening up into a big chutzah. The big chutz has got the walls, gifufim it's called. So again, says about a only when they both live on the roof, meaning that everybody uses the roof. Since everybody uses the roof, so therefore the demarcation, the split between the 2 roofs, demarcation is not so clear, because everybody's walking back and forth. If nobody goes on the roof, so then it's very clear, because nobody's walking back and forth across the border, and therefore you're allowed to carry both. He's going to Chon. Yeah. I never meant that. I said something else. The Godel Ishtai Begefufi that we're talking about, where there is a proper wall on the actual rooftop, a little wall on the rooftop. And then the Godel is mutter because it's got gifufim, it's got barriers on the sides. You mentioned the words diyun. If I mention the word diyun, this is what I mentioned. So that we're talking about where it's got a fence, making it possible for people to live there comfortably without worrying about falling off. The God then even the small one is permitted to the big one. If the small one have got no rooftop, wall on the rooftop, and the big one does, then the one on the big one is allowed to carry both on the big one and on the small one. Why? Because the fact that the small ones didn't bother making a rooftop shows, yes, let's say a few pictures. Here you've got the rooftops where you can actually see the split. Nice. Here you've got rooftops you can't see. Here's a small to a big. So here you explain the gifufim. The small one is not got any gifufim, meaning that on this area it's got nothing, but the big one has gifufim. Meaning, can you all see? Can you see? So therefore, it's got the ability to stop. Here, when people walk up and down across it, it spoils so therefore makes it that the whole area is considered. It. And here we're talking about where it's got small ones over here. So according to this shitta, that this one,
you carry from big to small, not small to big.
That's right. No, in this one, sorry, according to Abaya, you'd be allowed to carry in. What did Abaya say? Sorry. Because it says, Yeah, the big one's allowed to carry only in the big one. The small one's not allowed to carry in the small one because the small one's completely open and the big one's allowed to carry. If this one did not have a roof over here at all, a wall at all, sorry, then this one would be allowed to carry everywhere because the fact that they didn't bother making a wall on top of the roof shows they're not interested in using the roof and therefore it's built up. So we're up to Kahor.
Not bad that.
Not bad,
20,
yes.
20 minutes. Should
Yeah.
do that every day.
No, okay. But
It
it's easy to come on, but it's actually quite absurd. I have to admit, this is a huge heter. For example, if you find that it's